Worlds of Fun guests. Worlds of Fun would like to remind you that there is a heat advisory in effect for today. Please remember to drink plenty of water throughout your stay.
Hello. Is it a good idea to go to a theme park during a pandemic? Probably not. I don't know. This is hard. Yes, I did go to a theme park during a global pandemic. Is it the right thing to do? Definitely not. Is it a very wrong thing to do? Should I have not done it? Probably. It's a completely optional activity. It's involves people going out, interacting with each other in a public space where more often than not, you're not going to be able to avoid running into people. You could have little kids running and bumping into you. You're in a tight, confined space in some places. Whether or not it's irresponsible to visit a theme park during a pandemic is not the focus of this video. What I am trying to focus on is how to be as safe as possible and how to minimize contact with other people when going to a theme park. I'm also going to tell you what I experienced at the theme park, some things that were good, some things that were bad, some things that could be improved either by the people running the theme parks themselves, by employees, or by people just visiting. Especially people just visiting. Of course, people are going to say, no, what are you doing? That's irresponsible. You're putting other people in danger. Yeah, there is a chance that I'm putting other people in danger. I acknowledge that this is not the safest activity that you could be doing during quarantine. It's not at all, in any sense of the word. I am putting myself and other people in danger by doing so. If you want to talk about whether or not it's safe to go visit a theme park, feel free to talk about it in the comments if you want. I would like to have a discussion about what people think because I am still torn about my experience as to whether or not I should have gone. I don't know if I will do it again in the future, but I really love theme parks, and that's why I went. The theme park that I visited was Worlds of Fun in Kansas City, Missouri. Missouri has recently lifted all of its restrictions in the state as far as quarantine going. So our state is open. Other states are doing different things. This is just something that has happened locally. So circumstances are going to change depending on where you are. Worlds of Fun just opened on June 22nd. The state opened on the 16th. Other theme parks are planning on opening up in the near future. The most important thing you can do if you are considering going and visiting a theme park is to look at their website and, one, make sure that they're open, and two, to see what kind of policies they have implemented to keep you safe. For Worlds of Fun, I had to reserve a spot ahead of time online. You can stay as long as you like, but they're only letting in certain amounts of people throughout the day. So, to be specific, they were only letting 600 people in every half hour. But when we went, the park didn't even look like it had that many people at all. We went on a Sunday morning, and the park was barren. It was pretty empty when we went. Just walking around, there was plenty of space for people to be walking around and keeping a safe distance from each other. Everyone in the park, employees, visitors, everybody had to wear a mask or face covering while in the park. Even when riding attractions, we were encouraged to wear them. When we were going up, one of the rides that we went on was the Timberwolf, and as we went up the hill, the chain was pulling us up in the coaster. There was an announcement over the speaker telling us to even make sure that our masks stay up throughout the ride. Hold your mask in place if you have to. The masks didn't usually fly up, but they can, and sometimes you have to just fix them in place. Some people did take off their masks, but really you shouldn't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Employees were also encouraging other visitors to pull their masks up over their nose. It was a really hot day outside, so people were sometimes like pulling their masks down. Even I did it like a few times just to be like, oh my God, it's too hot for my face right now. People were standing in lines like that. People were walking around like that. Of course, people were having their masks off when they were eating or drinking. We stopped for water a bunch of times because we were so hot. So it is hard to keep your mask on, but you need to have it on the whole time that you're there if possible. When we first arrived at the park, they checked our season passes to make sure that we had a reservation just for us to park, and then they checked it again when we walked into the park itself. We also had to go to a special tent where they did a health screening and checked our temperature. So before you actually show up at the park, you have to do a health screening on their app. And for us, the app didn't work. So what happened was they just asked us the questions in person at this tent, and that worked just fine. But once you've cleared the health screening, which is just asking how you're feeling, have you been around anyone who's had COVID, and any other like symptoms or whatever, you just say no all of those questions, and then they let us in. We got our temperature checked. We basically just stood in this tent that had fans in it, and they measured our temperature from a distance. I don't know how that works, but that's what happened. Most of the rides in the park were open, with an exception. The 2 water rides were closed. Also, Oceans of Fun is completely closed and has no set reopening date at this time. Oceans of Fun is rated higher than Worlds of Fun on Google Maps, fun fact. 4.5 versus 4.3. There was also hand sanitizer offered. I almost said hand sanitizer food. Hand sanitizer food. Hand sanitizer was also offered after every single ride that we rode. And whenever you go up to get food at any one of the stations, they had hand sanitizer there as well. So that was awesome. That take was awesome. The wait times for rides were actually probably about the same, if not maybe a little bit longer. There were less people, but they also ran carts at half capacity. So every other row was closed for roller coasters. And on one ride in particular, the Bamboozler, 2/3 of the seats were closed. So it was like every 3 seats you had a person riding. Ride operators also asked you to tug on your own seatbelt as opposed to them doing it for you so that they didn't have to reach out and touch you. And for some reason, and I don't know why, some of the walkways in the park were restricted. Some areas were just completely fenced off that were almost always open before, and there were some new ones opened up. Not sure why that was, but that was there. So let's talk about some of the downsides now. Specifically about waiting in line for rides and food and just the being of closeness to people's. At every ride, there were indicators that let you know where you should stand and how far to stay away from other people. Kind of like when you go to the grocery store or the pharmacy or wherever you go, there's lines, little spots marking out where you need to go. Those were there at every ride. However, it wasn't regular. Some of the spots were sporadic. It felt like pieces were missing. We were in line for the Patriot. There were literally lines that were like ripped up, pulled, and looked like they were tossed to the side, discarded. I don't know why. I don't know if it had rained the night before and maybe that had just come unstuck or whatever the case. The lines had been down for not even a week and they weren't in place anymore. There were still spots here and there, but it was weird. And when there aren't lines down, if people will cross lines, if it's just going to happen. People are going to just, they're so used to the queues that they just go, oh, we're just going to stand right next to you. And it's like, no. Social distance. I'm getting a little upset. If there aren't markers on the ground for where people to stand, people will tend to just drift in and congregate closer. We were physically setting ourselves further apart from other people, and then a group behind us and a group behind them were just like smushing together, and like the lines behind us, like they kept our distance from us to an extent, but people were like congregating behind us, people congregating in front of us, and it made me and some of my family like a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes even if there were markers, because there would be groups of like 5 or 6 people, you can't keep 5 or 6 people 6 feet away from another group of 5 or 6 people away from each other to the same distance that the markers are at, because not everybody is standing on that line. Getting off of a ride was also particularly stressful because everybody gets off at the same time. There was no system for how to get off of the ride, and everybody is just going in the same way that it always is, getting off the ride, picking up any loose articles from a bin. Everybody pulls their items out of the same bin and walks out the same door and around the same path all together. On the first ride that we rode, after getting off, I had a group of girls behind me walk around me and push past my little sister, actually making contact with her, completely oblivious to the situation, and that was kind of frustrating. I think something that could be improved by this is to have a system where they just release a couple carts at a time, a couple rows of people at a time, so be like, hey, get up, go, hey, get up, go. It would be a bit slower, but I think that it would help and remind people, hey, we need to stay away from each other a little bit. We need to not burp in the middle of our conversations. And I mentioned before the heat. It was 88 degrees outside. Now, this is a controllable factor. You can always choose to not go on a day where it's so hot. But if you're going on a day where it's 88 degrees and there is a heat advisory, you're going to get really hot under your mask and you're not going to want to wear it, even if the employees in the park are telling you to. After walking around for a while and after riding one of our roller coasters, my sister felt a little faint and thought oh my God, this is too much. This is too much. And I thought that was too much. Even I took off my mask at some points when I was separated from other people. And I'm like, okay, Breeze, come and save me, because it's very hot and all the water attractions are closed. You're walking by fans and mist sprayers at every opportunity that you can, because it was really uncomfortable. I 100% would not recommend going to a theme park if it is any higher than 80 degrees outside. Do not do it. It is so uncomfortable. We were there for 3 hours and it was not fun. Also, because there are less people working there and there's less people total, some of the food places were closed down, so there's less places to get water. We always went for cups of ice water. We didn't ever go to the water fountains because I didn't feel like going up and being close to a water fountain, because those things are gross, especially considering where we're at. Nah, no thanks. So we were drinking water less frequently, no water rides. It was not a great time. Do not go when it's hot outside, period. Also, and this is super, super important, it almost goes for any situation, even outside of a theme park. If you are going out in public, people are stupid. People are not always being considerate, and especially younger kids who don't understand what's going on, they're going to be taking their masks off and don't care. They're going to be running into you, probably bumping into you. There's no way that you can guarantee that you aren't going to make contact with somebody while you're out at a theme park. No way. Especially getting off the coasters. It's unrealistic to think that it is a completely avoidable situation. So with all of that said, was it worth it? Maybe. I mean, after all of that I've said, you would be like, no, of course not. Of course it wasn't worth it. It was uncomfortable, and there were people that were too close to me, and yeah. But oh my God, I love roller coasters. Is that so bad? It's probably bad that I love roller coasters too as much. For me, it was worth it. It was worth it for me because I just love theme parks. I love roller coasters. I'm obsessed. I haven't been to a park in a few months, and I love going all the time. It was nice to finally visit one again. For other people, it's probably not worth it. Not at all, especially if you're just thinking of something to just do on the weekend. Maybe not. I definitely won't be going within the next week or two. I'm definitely going to be waiting 14 days to see what happens, see if I get sick. And I definitely won't be going on a day as hot as that one. But that's just me. Would you go to a theme park during a pandemic? Have you gone to one already? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear another perspective on this. If you found this video helpful or informative, maybe you should leave a like. And if you want to see more videos from me in the future, maybe you could subscribe. I usually make videos about art and video games, but sometimes I do something like this, then I just talk to you. So I hope you enjoy that. And I hope to see you all again real soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!